Hello and welcome to downtown Canton, Ohio, where we are gearing up for the gold jacket ceremony. Rondé Barber will receive his gold jacket. Also worth mentioning that Ken Riley Jr., the son of Ken Riley, will receive a gold jacket as well. I spoke with him earlier today. He was telling me that he's actually going to get a plaque with the gold jacket in it, the first time they will ever do something like this in the Pro Football Hall of Fame history. So that's just a little snippet of what's coming up at 11 o'clock tonight. But let's break down the whole scene here from Canton about why we're here. That's, of course, to celebrate the tremendous career from one of the greatest Tampa Bay Buccaneers players to ever suit up, Rondé Barber. He is a strong member of our community. He spent 16 years as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, the entirety of his career, which is impressive. That really doesn't happen anymore these days. Just him and Derek Brooks side by side there of riding it out throughout their tenure in the NFL with one team. You know, we can look at Levante David and Mike Evans as maybe being those next guys to do it, but we've already seen Derek Brooks. We've seen Warren Sapp. We spoke with Tony Dungy earlier today. I highly suggest you check out 10tampabay.com and our free 10 Tampa Bay app to hear what Tony Dungy has to say about Rondé Barber entering the Hall of Fame. It was cool to talk with him because Tony, who first coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1996, he was able to see Rondé's development. Get drafted from Virginia in the third round. Then that first year, he never even saw the field outside of maybe one or two plays. And then moment by moment, season by season, he kept getting better and better. And that is with the help of Tony. That is with the help of Monte Kiffin, who was the defensive coordinator back then. Obviously, both of them are key pieces to the Tampa 2 defense. Also, Mike Tomlin was a secondary coach during that time, now a legendary Hall of Fame coach himself for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or will be a Hall of Famer once his career wraps up. Rondé is a stellar individual. A lot of people in his community have met him at some point, whether it's through the Valspar Championship, his philanthropic efforts, watching him on the field. But the stats were staggering. That's why it's a little bit surprising it took until his sixth time to enter the Hall of Fame, which will come tomorrow with the enshrinement ceremony. You think back to the amazing durability. That was something he said he's most proud of when it comes to his career. We're talking 224 consecutive starts, including the playoffs. I don't think that record will ever be broken by a defensive back in the sport ever again. I mean, that is a record that spans 15 years. He played in every single game for 15 years. The starting streak didn't begin until the late 90s because he says he had a hamstring issue, so he came in later in the game, allowed somebody else to start for him, but he always wanted to suit up. Maybe that comes from the fear of how he took the job in the first place, which was for an injured player as well. He also has 14 non-offensive touchdowns. That ranks fourth all-time in National Football League history. It's incredible what he was able to do with interceptions and sacks. You think about the 40-plus interceptions, the 25-plus sacks. He's the only person in NFL history to do both. He was versatile. He had to learn every position on the defense because they moved him every which way. He was very close to 5'0" and still treated like a linebacker, getting after the quarterback, getting in the run fits. So what Rondé was able to do, the uniqueness as he puts it, he had to work harder to be equal, is also his motto this weekend, is just truly incredible. So to be here in Canton after the long time fighting for his spot in Canton, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I should say, is just really cool to witness, and to be inside of the building you see behind me, watching him get that gold jacket in front of all the other members in the Hall of Fame. That is going to be a sight to see. I also did see John Lynch is here. So we got John Lynch, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks as really the three main Buccaneers who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Rondé will be 4, and the late, great Leroy Selman is really 5. Darrelle Revis played for the Bucs. He's going to get his gold jacket. We appreciate the 2012 season with him on the roster, but he's not really ours. As for someone else in the Bay Area who's getting recognized this weekend, we have to talk about Ken Riley. He died 3 years ago, back in 2020, of a heart attack. So it's really his family, 200 some odd members of family members and friends here in Canton to discuss who he was as a person, how he was on the field. 65 interceptions. 65. It took him 35 years to land in the Hall of Fame off of 65 interceptions. And that's back in a time, we're talking about 69 to 83 here, back in a time where they were not throwing the ball like they do today. Speaking with Ken Riley Jr. this afternoon, he said if you threw it 20 times a game, that was a lot back then. So for somebody to have 65, which still ranks tied among the top 5 of all time, seems like he got overlooked despite never being in a Pro Bowl or All-Star selection. His story is really phenomenal when you go back to him being at FAMU as a quarterback and then transitioning to cornerback in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals, staying his entire career in Cincinnati, then becoming the FAMU athletic director. He was a coach for a small time, and then you know what he did? He went back home to Bartow, where he grew up. And he still lived with his wife, his high school sweetheart of 51 years, Barbara Riley, who will unveil his bust tomorrow. Ken Riley Jr. will give this speech, but Barbara will also be on the stage, and that will be an important moment for her. We spoke with Barbara at her home in Bartow. I please, again, advise you to go onto 10tampabay.com and our free 10 Tampa Bay app to see that story. We also have snippets from my sit-down interview with Ronde Barber before this weekend began. So those are just a handful of elements in TV, right here on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us if you are from home. There's only so much that we can tell you, only so much that we can give you, but on our 10 Tampa Bay app and on our webpage, we're able to give you everything. So I'm really excited for you to see the sit-down interview, the story we did on Ken Riley through the lens of his wife, Barbara. And then later tonight, we're going to give you a retrospective of Rondé Barber's career. Really, it's not all about the stats. The stats play a big part of why Rondé Barber is here today, why he'll be inducted tomorrow, but it's what he brought to the sport. The seminal ability, or the seminal moment he had in Philadelphia, and the ability he had at that slot corner position, something no one had really ever seen in that sport. So it's really exciting to be here in Canton, and we have plenty of content to give you. I'm going to hop on over to the TV side of things for 10 Tampa Bay at 6 o'clock. There we will hear more from Rondé Barber about his speech that's coming tomorrow, as well as what Ken Riley Jr. will say in his speech. 2 totally different angles, one person breaking down his career himself, the other having to sum up his father's career. So it's going to be a long ceremony at noon tomorrow. Buckle in, DVR it, or make sure you tune in to 10 Tampa Bay at 6:30 to watch our recap of the enshrinement ceremony. And again, I'll hammer it away. Check out 10tampabay.com and our free 10 Tampa Bay app. Thank you so much for joining us here on Facebook Live, or wherever you're picking up our social coverage. We will continue our stay here in Canton through the weekend.